Laptop. It's quite a weird name for this thing, isn't it? Because as far as I know, these types of computers almost always sit on top of your desk, which makes them the exact opposite of the desktop. These towers right here are what I consider to be the definition of the computer. And they're also the very first computers that I ever got in contact with. Like these right here were our primary school computers that we go and play pajans on about once every year or so. And then at home we had one of these on which I played Pajama Sam about once every month. And then finally in high school we had these types of Dell computers which were supposed to be for work and study, but mostly we just looked at memes every week or so. Look, I still have one of the badges that I stole from the front of one of these. I think you can go and live over here now. Now looking at memes all day or playing Pajama Sam don't sound like very demanding tasks at all. However, back then, computers just weren't powerful at all, so they needed a lot of space to do just very basic tasks. But then when the technology got better and it could make it smaller, look at what happened. So this right here was our home computer. But after this one, we had this one as our home computer. And after that one, this became our home computer. Do you notice a trend here? Well, if you said that all of these computers are made by HP, oh, you got some keen observation skills there. However, you kind of missed the fact that they're all laptops. And you know what a crazy thing is? You have a laptop too. Because even if you're the most hardcore PC gamer enthusiast, building a new PC for every single GPU that comes out, you'll likely also have a laptop because they're just so convenient. You can take them to school, to work, wherever you go. They come with a keyboard, a mouse, speakers, an entire screen all in one, and then they also don't really take up all that much space. And all of that convenience comes at the cost of less money? What? That doesn't make any sense, now does it? But look over here. We have a brand new laptop right here with an i7-13700 CPU, 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage, and an RTX 4060 GPU, and it's about $1,400. Now, keep that price in mind, okay? So we now go over to a site where you can put together a desktop. And this desktop has an i7-13700 CPU, it has 16 gigs of RAM, it has 1 terabyte of storage, and it has an RTX 4060 GPU. Now let's see what the price of this is. It's about $1,650. That's about $200 to $250 more. So what are you waiting on? Just go out and buy laptops from now on, because not only are they better in every way imaginable, they're also cheaper. But hold on. That doesn't really make much sense with the title of this video. You see, laptops are great at being portable light work machines. However, they're not always the best solution for what you need. And recently, I've just grown so freaking frustrated with how laptops just seem to be the default option to buy while never really considering whether they're actually good value. For example, let's take a look at these two computers right here. You know, both of them have the same parts with the same name. However, these parts don't necessarily perform the same. Because PC parts, like your CPU or your GPU, like they can work really, really fast, but they also need a lot of power. It's kind of like your car, which can go really fast if you push it flat out and give the engine all the fuel that it needs, but then you're also very quick to run out of gas. And since there's only so much fuel you can carry around, you don't really drive max out all the time. And it's the same thing with laptops. Like, laptops store their fuel as electricity in their batteries. So if you've ever noticed that if you're carrying around your laptop, it kind of runs slower, well, that's because it's saving on fuel. But what if I plug it into its power supply? Then it must get the same amount of power as a desktop, right? You know, about that. Even your laptop power supply has been made smaller in order for you to be able to carry it around more easily. Which, I know, it's very hard to believe because this thing is all massive brick, which is such a pain to carry around in your bag. However, this is a laptop power supply, and this is a desktop power supply. So, yeah, the laptop, even when it's plugged in, will never be able to draw as much power as a desktop would. But unlike what we've learned from the Top Gear days, power isn't everything. Remember from the GPU video when we looked at this powerful RTX 3080 GPU and we saw that only this part right here is the actual GPU and the rest around here is just there to cool it down? You see, PC parts need a lot of power to run very fast, but all that power also creates a lot of heat. And these parts right here, they're also pretty delicate. They can only take about 100 degrees Celsius before they start to get damaged. So when they become too hot, like this GPU stops taking as much power and slows down, which is why you have all these fins and all the fans on the card to keep it cooling down, because that gives more space for like the heat to be soaked up and more heat to be dissipated, and then like you kind of prevent this slowing down of the graphics card. Now look at the difference between how much space there is for air to move around in a desktop as compared to a laptop. And then look at the size of a single laptop fan, of which most laptops nowadays only have one. and then compare that to the size of a desktop fan, of which most systems have about 3 or 4. Like, there's so much more air that can be moved around through the desktop system to cool things down. And that's why a laptop will never be able to give the same performance out of the same components as a desktop. That is, if they're already the same components to begin with. Because a lot of the time, laptop CPUs and GPUs are completely different from their desktop counterparts, where, just like the handheld games that we looked at on the gaming channel, they only share the same name to make them more memorable and marketable, but are quite stripped down compared to their desktop counterparts, which doesn't really make this comparison very accurate. Also, the desktop is quite a lot cheaper. This desktop right here is only about $1,650 if you include a monitor, a mouse, a keyboard, speakers, and a webcam. But if you already have all of that, you can get this entire package for like just about $1,100. That's about $300 cheaper than the laptop. And this is the important thing that we tend to miss, because people who've never had a desktop before, they look at this comparison and say, well, you see, if I want to get a desktop, I need to get all these extra parts that cost me heaps of money. Meanwhile, the laptop has everything all in one, and I can take it wherever I go. And then, you know, both these parts are named the same, so they should probably be the same performance. And then the laptop is cheaper. But it is not, because these things are not the same. That said, I totally understand that getting all this extra stuff like a monitor, mouse, and keyboard can be such a pain in the ass, because it can total up to like $500 extra that you have to spend when you're buying your first desktop. But look at this. This right here is my MSI laptop that I bought in 2016 for about $1,000. And it's dead now. For some reason, it just doesn't want to turn on anymore. I've tried everything from like plugging it into power, plugging it into battery, resetting the hard drive, getting the hard drive out, new one in, new RAM in. It just doesn't want to do anything. It turned on, it turned off, nothing anymore. There's probably something wrong with the motherboard, which pretty much makes this laptop completely unfixable, because this motherboard also has the CPU and GPU soldered onto it. So if I want to find a replacement board, I also need to get one with a CPU and GPU, which just makes it heaps expensive, if they still make these replacement boards, which there's no guarantee of with laptop motherboards. So that makes it just such a hassle that for this old laptop that was already getting pretty slow in modern games, I just don't think it's worth to fix it anymore. However, at the same time that I bought this laptop, I also bought my very first desktop. Also for about $1,000, also with roughly the same components. Like this right here has a GTX 960 GPU. That thing also had a 960 GPU. This thing has an i7 Intel CPU. That thing had an i5 CPU, which is technically supposed to be worse. However, that thing is still chugging along. Like that's playing modern games like Apex and Valorant just perfectly fine. Speaking of perfectly fine, if you look at this laptop right now, the screen here is still perfectly fine. The keyboard still works. The trackpad still works. Like everything about this laptop here works except for the motherboard. However, because I can't swap out any of the parts, this entire thing just goes on like the pile of dead laptops. So where a desktop has these costs of buying a keyboard, mouse, and monitor up front, a laptop right here has all these costs at the end, where basically you have to throw away perfectly fine hardware because you can't carry over, for instance, your old keyboard from your laptop to your new one because it doesn't fit, where a USB keyboard you can put into any new desktop. Also, forgive me for this little tangent right here, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your motherboard breaking. One thing that I've also often seen is like these screens right here, which are perfectly fine, which then have the hinges where the screws have like taken out their screw holes so they don't fit inside the laptop anymore. So then you can't open and close your laptop anymore, and you have a perfectly fine computer, but you can't open and close anymore, so you have to throw it away. And then you end up in a situation where everyone thinks that they're getting this great deal, where in fact you're getting something that's less good, runs slower, and is just single-use rubbish that you have to throw away if only one small thing breaks. Can you see why I'm getting so frustrated with this? In other news, this is my new laptop. What? Did I really just make you sit for that several minute long tirade against laptops to ultimately just shit all over that by buying one myself? Well, yes, I did. You see, for as frustrating as the wastefulness, reduced power, and complete lack of features is on laptops nowadays, I mean, like, good luck trying to find a laptop that still has some ports nowadays. Most of them just give you USB-C and a wet fart. It's absolutely atrocious. But for all of that, you just can't argue with the portability of it. I've got something coming up on the channel very soon for which I need a computer with me on the go. And for as much as I like my desktop right here, there's no way that I'm carrying this thing around. Likewise, if you go to school or work, like setting up a keyboard, mouse, and monitor every single time that you want to take notes or give a presentation, like that's just flat out ridiculous. Laptops really have a good use case, which is also what I said at the start of the video. Like, they're really good at being portable light work machines. But once you start getting them for all your computer needs, like buying one to be your next gaming computer, well, then you end up with one of these. So I'd say don't waste your money on something that a laptop just isn't good at. Which may sound like I'm telling you to stop buying the high-end laptops, but rather the more mid-range stuff, which is pretty much the case. Like, don't tie up thousands of dollars into something that will be a total loss if only one thing breaks. That said though, buying mid-range, I can imagine that's quite scary still. I mean, just look at a pile of dead laptops right here. Like, most of these are just affordable mid-range laptops that I've bought over the years, but right now just can't even browse the web anymore because they've gone so freaking slow. Especially 5 to 10 years ago, buying a mid-range laptop meant that you could only use it for about 2 to 4 years before it got too slow and you had to buy a new one again. Which meant that if you got a higher-end laptop, you might be able to skip 1 or 2 rounds of buying a new laptop, thus the higher price would actually be the more affordable option. Which reminds me a lot about smartphones, which, as we recently saw, would also just turn into complete bricks even if they were the most flagship models at the time. However, have you noticed that recently smartphones have kind of stagnated a bit? Like, even this 2018 phone right here just holds up perfectly fine, even though it's about 6 years old now. That's because our technology has finally caught up to our needs, where browsing the internet, taking pictures, watching videos, going through menus right here, I mean, basically every single phone from the last few years is perfectly capable of doing that just fine. Sure, I mean, this thing may not be able to run high-end mobile games, but do you really play these games? And it's the same thing with laptops. Most of the work that we do on the go is like writing up a Word document, setting up a presentation, or going into an online meeting, which is all stuff that laptops have been able to do perfectly fine for a while right now and aren't in any danger of like getting too slow for anytime soon. But what if I am the type of person that wants to play games on the go? Well then, do as I did. Get last year's model secondhand. This right here is a 2022 laptop, which last year sold for about $1,500, and I got it last week for $650. And just look at how good it looks. I mean, I just really love the design. It has like big air vents at the back to keep that airflow going, which basically it sucks in from here and then spits out over there. As I said before, the port selection is quite good for what you can get on a modern laptop. Also, I don't know if I'm the only one, but what I've noticed with laptops in the past, especially gaming laptops, is that they're always just kind of like creaky. I don't necessarily care that much about premium materials, but still, you know, it feels cheaper than it's supposed to be. Meanwhile, this thing right here, I think this is all plastic, but it kind of feels like it's some sort of, like there's sturdiness to it that is definitely not the same plastic as the MSI laptop, and it just feels like so well put together. Sure, there's like a bit of a screen rubble right here. It also doesn't have like an RGB keyboard, which I don't like. I don't need to have all my RGB everywhere. And you want to know the craziest thing? It's an HP. Can you believe that? Good old boring HP making all the most dull looking office laptops since like the year 2000. Oh, this is one of them. This is supposed to be their Fictus lineup. This is an HP Fictus 16 or so. It's our gaming brand of laptops, which means that they have a little bit more oomph. But whereas most gaming laptops nowadays have like a lot of like flashy style to it, this right here, I mean, like I like the look of it. Like everyone I show this to, they don't recognize where this is from at all. It's very subtle. The reason I got this one is because it still has a micro SD slot, which I need for my cameras, and no computers have anymore. It's just in perfect condition. I mean, there's no blemishes, nothing you can see. And I just got this like after one afternoon of looking on like a secondhand website, and there you go, I got it. I didn't even do that much research. So I'm pretty sure that if you spend just a little bit of time looking around out there, you may even be able to find better deals. All I'm trying to say here is that laptops aren't your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. Even though they sure are being made to seem that way, they're wonderful portable little machines for writing documents, answering emails, and making presentations on the go. But if all you do is play games in one location, well, maybe look into a desktop computer that you can upgrade down the line for just a fraction of the cost. And then if you do need to do something for school or for work, just get a cheap mid-range laptop or a secondhand laptop that can do all the light work stuff on the go. I don't know, just something to consider. Anyway, that's all for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My apologies, by the way, for like the extended break here on this channel. I've been really hard at work on the Postma 1 gaming channel, like getting videos set up instead of getting streams set up. I do some gaming videos there, also some gaming tech videos. Like recently we looked at the PS Vita, which was a lot of fun. So if you've not seen that yet and it seems interesting to you, why not check it out? And if you enjoy my content and want to support what I do, why not check out Overtime, which is a special show that I make right after the main video, where for $1 a month or completely free, you can get extra videos like today, we're going to be looking at this computer right here. I'm going to set it up with the operating system and the programs that I need for content creation on the go. And yeah, we'll just go over the process of that and just talk a little bit about what my plans are. So yeah, if you want to learn more about Overtime, check the information description down below. And with that, I will see you all next time.